Hi there, my name's Alicia Lee, and I'm the CEO and founder of Faithly. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Communio for making today's episode possible. Communio is an incredible ministry. They're dedicated to equipping churches to share the gospel by renewing relationships, marriages, and families. If you're a church leader looking to strengthen relationships in your church and in your community, then I really encourage you to visit communio.org/faithly, where you'll find exclusive resources on how to bring Communio to your church today. Now, let's get started with today's episode of Faithly Stories.
We're living in a multi-ethnic world today, or America. We still got a ways to go in terms of in our nation.
Sure.
We're seeing that now, right? But civil rights, happen. We can ride the bus, right?
Yeah.
Me and you can sit in this room today.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of what he believed in. And it's, hey, we're better together. He called it the beloved community.
Yes.
Which then coincided with the principles of the kingdom. That really speaks to this idea that we really are better together.
Welcome to Faithly Stories, the podcast that brings you inspiring tales from conversations with church leaders as they navigate the peaks and valleys of their faith journeys through their ministry work and everyday life. Brought to you by Faithly, an online community committed to empowering church leaders. Learn more at faithly.co. Get ready to be uplifted and inspired on the Faithly Stories podcast.
Pastor Adam Durso here, sitting with my good friend, Pastor Sam Collier. Welcome to Faithly Stories podcast. And my brother, I'm glad to sit here with you and talk a little bit about your story, man.
AD.
Yeah, brother.
Can I shake your hand?
You know it. You know it. We're going to break all the rules anyway.
We're going to break
There's going to be no other podcast like this podcast. We 30 seconds in,
and we already broke the rule.
They're like, disclaimer in the bio section, warning.
And we shake hands. Bro, it's an honor to be here. We'll get to this later, but people need to know how much you mean to me and what you've done for me in the hall.
Dude.
Right? At 2 a.m.
Dude.
The calls and the coaching session.
From the moment I met you, I felt like an instant connection. I was like, man, this dude is real. And it's just been unfolding since then.
Yeah.
And although I feel like our relationship is not years long, less than a year, it's gone deep fast.
Fast, yeah.
The conversation we had last night, the vulnerability, the sharing, all that stuff, man, it's been phenomenal. And I watched you. We're sitting here, and the audience doesn't realize we're in New York City, even though we're on a beach.
We're on a
we're in New York City. We just finished 30 for 30, which is supposed to be 30 hours with 30 pastors, but we had like 70 plus.
Right?
Yeah. If I hear another joke about that, 78 and a half pastors.
Right.
Still wondering who the half is, but whatever. I saw you in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We were in your hometown where you pastor. And I said, hey, man, would you give the devotional thought, which we always do outside? It was just beautiful. And sky was beautiful. And you shared your story with a level of vulnerability. And the ministry leaders that are watching that might see Sam and they might say, man, this guy's a phenomenal communicator. And look at this, look at that. Man, you've been on a journey for a minute now.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of your story with the audience?
Oh, my gosh.
How long we got?
He did not warn me about this. Man, it's it has been a ton of peaks and a ton of valleys.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think it was Bishop Bronner that said here, I think in New York, this is Long Beach. I didn't know New York had a Long Beach.
Exactly.
He said Long Beach. I was like, you going to LA?
Right. I thought it was in Cali.
Right. But he said, or it was either him or you, I believe. I think y'all shared in this sentiment that you learn the greatest lessons in the valley.
Yeah.
That's where you get your strength.
Yes.
And that's been a large part of my journey. I started doing ministry when I was 16.
Okay.
So I'm 36 now.
Okay.
So it's been 20
years.
And, in the Black context, I grew up in the Black context.
Yes.
You just kind of, if you're talented, and you love God, they just kind of give you a mic and like, hey, figure it out, figure
Yep.
it out. And so
And you can play, and you can.
yes, that's how I started doing music,
Yep.
and music ministry, and I got my first record deal when I was 16 with Bishop Eddie Long.
Okay.
And so this is when he was at the height. This
Yeah.
is when Usher and Tyler Perry
Yeah.
and Kirk Franklin and Rodney Jerkins were in his office after
Yes.
church.
Right. Yes, sir.
Ludacris,
Yes.
After church.
Yes.
And so getting the opportunity to potentially have a record deal with him was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And I went from literally just meeting him to 3 months later meeting all these guys.
Yeah.
And being in a meeting with Kirk and singing for Kirk and all of this other stuff. And I did that for a little bit of a season and then transitioned to my first ministry job at Ebenezer.
Okay.
Which we don't have time to go through the ups and the downs or just the rounds.
Yep.
But at Ebenezer, I'll give you a quick tory. I'm gonna try to, because you told me to be quick. I'm gonna try to be brief. I got like a million stories in a story. But I'll tell you a quick, because so I am, they make me youth choir director. And I hated choirs at the time. I grew up on R&B music.
Okay.
And now this is the Ebenezer.
Yeah.
This is right when Dr. Raphael Warnock became pastor.
Sure.
They had just voted him in.
Yep.
He had been there maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe.
Okay.
He was not into politics at the time.
Yep.
And when they put me over the youth choir, I started the rehearsal, and there was one person at the rehearsal. One. And I was like, what am I doing?
Can you call a choir one? Like, if you got one member,
it's a voice
are
lesson.
they a soloist? Right.
It was a voice lesson. And I'm playing, and so the Lord tells me.
Was he or she talented at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
at
she
least
was young, though.
That'll save you, though.
She's like 12. And it's her and her mother sitting in the back.
Okay.
And so her mother sits in the back because she's 12. Her mother sits in the back the whole time because it's just her.
Yep.
She's not going to leave this 12-year-old with this guy
Sure.
at Ebenezer.
Right.
And so the Lord tells me teach this 12-year-old like it's 30 people in the room. So I'm like, I'm doing the moves. Like, stand.
Everybody stand.
And she stands, and I'm teaching her. I'm like, let's do our scales. This goes on for 4 weeks. Nobody ever joins the choir. It's me, this girl, and her mother for 4 weeks. So we get really close because it's just us in the room, and it's weird. So after 4 weeks, her mother gets upset. She's like, this is ridiculous. I'm telling the pastor. I guess she had a relationship with the pastor. I'm telling the pastor he needs to make an announcement and get more people in his choir. So that fifth Sunday, he makes an announcement. Youth choir rehearsal is this week. If you're da-da-da-da-da. I end up meeting the youth pastor. I didn't know they had a youth pastor. It's been 4 weeks. It's 40 people in the choir the next week.
Okay.
So after choir rehearsal is done, I'm excited, whatever. And I'm meeting the youth pastor in the parking lot. And this is a big part of my ministry. Like, this is like the beginning of, I think, launching whatever it is that the Lord is going to do. I'm in the parking lot talking to the youth leader. I tell him to hold on for a second, and I go say bye to the mother who's been with me for the last 4 weeks. And then I come back, and he's like, man, y'all are really close. I'm like, I mean, it's just been us. He's like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, no, that's Angela, He said, that is Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece.
Wow.
And so I had been teaching his niece and his great niece for 4 weeks. I mean, it was insane. And we had gotten close. And, I got chills when he said it.
Yeah.
Like, her mother is Dr. King's sister.
Wow.
And her cousin is Bernice King. Wow. And all of these, and she's on the board of the King Center. And I had no idea because she kind of hung in the back.
Sure.
I'm like, now it makes sense that you know the pastor.
Right, exactly. You got the hotline. Right. You can crawl over.
You can hit. Been with all the presidents and all these other things. And but she asked me to be her daughter's mentor. And so I mentored her daughter for about 3 or 4 years and went to the Emmys with them. And I mean, her name, Angela Watkins, Dr. Angela Watkins, she's tenure professor at Spelman and some other things. But her influence, and that turned into me being close to Dr. Bernice King for a while. And I studied at the King Center in terms of Kingian philosophy for a season. And kind of in that, went back to New Birth when John Gray was there.
Yeah.
He went to, I think you told me about this, that you knew him when he started doing comedy
Sure,
and some other
yeah.
thing. And so he went on the road with TV1. I took his job at New Birth over youth choirs, praise teams, bands, and some environments. New Birth went through a few things. I
Sure.
transitioned out of that, was with Andy Stanley for 8 years.
Pause.
Yep.
I get everything up to this point.
Yep.
You grew up in the Black church.
Yep.
You're talented. You're gifted. Music. Ebenezer, New Birth, Kirk, Rodney.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. Andy Stanley feels a little bit like a left turn. Like you just gonna bring that up right here and be like, oh, and by the way, I went to the whitest possible church in the Atlanta area.
In Atlanta.
For the international crowd that doesn't know. Like,
birthplace of civil rights.
Like, this is
Dr. King.
Right. I went from Dr.
North
King's
Point.
church to Andy Stanley's church. I'm just saying. And you didn't like have like a moment, like you were there for like
8 years.
8
My
years.
longest ministry stint.
That feels like a fish out of water a little bit. Like, how is navigating, you got guys that are, dealing in diverse environments, right? I know for me, I thought because all of my best friends were Black, there's no way I could ever have a bias.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after 20 years on a failed succession plan of leaving a church and then moving to be under Pastor Bernard.
Yeah.
And we prayed for the first time, we stopped the service and we prayed for an unarmed Black man in service. And I thought to myself, I went upstairs to the conference room, where at the time we had multiple services and Pastor would have breakfast and we'd have breakfast with him. And I thought, I can remember over 20 years distinctly stopping services for police officers.
Yeah.
Who were killed on John. I officiated a service that had 15,000 police officers show up, and Biden, who was the vice president at the time, and our governor and our mayor and the cardinal and Pastor Bernard, they gave the eulogy. I didn't realize that we had never stopped a service to pray for an unarmed Black man or woman. And in that moment, and I confessed it to Pastor Bernard, and he said, you'll never really understand until you're led by somebody who's not part of the dominant culture. In some ways, you're going the other way.
Absolutely.
You're now going from Black culture Atlanta and two of probably, the most, one historic and certainly one that's got a name, to say the least, now into an environment led by Andy Stanley.
Yeah.
What was that like, man?
Man, it was a cultural revolution in my mind.
Okay.
And it definitely was the leading of the Holy Spirit that led me there. And to be honest, I ended up there and wanting to go there, not for cultural reasons. It was for innovation reasons.
Okay.
Which was interesting because at the time I had gone, I told you New Birth had gone through some things.
Yes.
You know the history of New Birth. Now, obviously, Dr. Jamaal Bernard is pastoring it, and it's flourishing again. But it went through a hard season. And up until that point, having gone through so much and just kind of dealing with that, I wanted something different. I was just like, I need something. I want to approach the gospel maybe in a different way, but I didn't really know how to answer that question. And it was actually Bishop Eddie Long's son who took me to North Point, which is Andy Stanley's church.
Yeah.
He just called me one day and was like, and I'm trying to remember when this happened because I was like figuring different things out. And he said, man, I'm going to a 6 p.m. service somewhere. I want you to go with me. So I go with him, and it's the most white people I'd ever seen in my life. Ever. I was like, right. It's like the Christian Gap store. Like, I'm just you said we were going to break the rule.
We apologize from the beginning of this podcast. So if this has to be edited out in post-production,
just edit me out.
Yeah.
Old Navy.
He said, I went to the Old Navy of church, Old Navy Tabernacle.
And I was like, I didn't even, where all these white people come from? Because in Atlanta,
yes,
you can be Black and never see a white person.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, you can just live over here.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Alpharetta existed until I got to North Point. And so I'm like, this is like a whole new world. So I was fascinated at that. But then once I got past that, I was seeing the lights and the camera and I actually think when I went, they opened with a Marvin Gaye song, What's Going On?
Okay.
Which is about, kind of a
Yeah.
cultural criticism.
Yeah. Social justice, all that.
And it's positive, so it makes sense, but it was
Right.
I was like, what is this?
Right.
And then he went through the service, and I don't believe Andy was preaching in person, but the screen was like life size, and at one time they had a hologram of him at one time.
Yeah.
And so I was just so blown away by the innovation. I said, man, whatever they're doing, I want to learn. And if it's a bunch of white people here, that's fine. I'll figure that out.
Well, it says something about your character and aptitude for learning, because the bottom line is whether you agree with everything or don't agree with everything. I remember the old saying in the church used to be, chew the meat and spit out the bones.
Yes.
I don't have to agree with everything to learn from something.
Yes.
And so you're in a completely different cultural environment, and you're saying, I can learn innovation in this space that I can apply in multiple spaces, and I don't have to replicate it. I just want to learn from it. And then you go through this, season where then you're going to launch.
Yep.
And you're the very first ordained Black global Hillsong pastor. Wow. I mean, that seems like a lot of pressure, dude. What was that like?
And it wasn't the goal. I think it's a great segue. And from North Point to Hillsong, coming out of Ebenezer, because when you look at kind of the journey and where I ended up, it kind of has Dr. King written all over it in terms of just what he stood for.
Yes.
We're living in a multi-ethnic world today, or America, when there's no, slavery's not happening anymore. We still got a ways to go in terms of in our nation.
Sure.
We're seeing that now, right? But civil rights, happen. We can ride the bus, right?
Yeah.
Me and you can sit in this room today.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of what he believed in. And it's, hey, we're better together. He called it the beloved community.
Yes.
And so for me, it seems as if, God introduced me to the King family, introduced me to the Kingian principles, which then coincided with the principles of the kingdom. And then took me on a beloved community journey in understanding. And I love this point that you made in terms of, man, it doesn't matter what's happening. I can learn from anybody. And that really speaks to this idea that we really are better together.
Yes.
And I think for me, obviously, when things like George Floyd happen and other things, you start to see how maybe apart you are, or how much you can learn from one another in terms of coming together, or our gaps, so on and so forth. But there was so much that I learned at North Point from my white brothers and sisters that made me a better leader, that made me a better communicator. I tell everybody that I got my passion from Bishop Long, but sermon structure and the intention of theology and getting behind the text and context all came from Andy Stanley.
Storytelling, yeah.
It all came from Andy Stanley.
100.
And it was like, and he was a tough critic.
Yeah.
But I had to submit myself through that process. And on the other side, it led me to your point, to this first African-American pastor at Hillsong. And it wasn't the goal. For me, I had just gotten to the end of the rope at North Point, and I started asking the question, is it possible to truly create an environment where all cultures can be seen and understood, and the expression of ministry, whether it be a white context and a Black context, can we take the passion of the Black church and mix it with the intention and the strategy of what some would consider the white church, and the innovation, and then the prophetic side of the urban context, but then also the intention on theology? Can we put that together?
Yeah.
And so I started looking for a house to do that in. And Brad Lomenick was my second call, because me and Andy talked about it a lot, and we really wanted to do it, but we just, Baptist Foundation, Pentecostal, so on and so forth. And so he introduced me to Brian Houston.
Okay.
And I flew in to meet with him literally, and this is just literally the week of George Floyd in LA. And as I'm talking to him about this multi-ethnic idea, he's excited about it, but there are riots going on literally down the street.
Wow.
And so it was like a prophetic moment of God just going, our nation needs this. Hillsong can be a part of this. And they were trying to figure out what they could do globally even. They had just formed a global, multicultural board?
Sure.
Well, they were trying to figure out, okay, what does it mean to do race relations here, but also in South Africa?
Yeah.
And then also in the UK and in other places. And so I'll stop.
No, I think you alluded to it earlier in the conversation when you said, we learn a lot more in the valley. We grow, we get stronger in the valley than we get from our blessings in the mountaintop. And I know for
Yeah.
me, when I think about my favorite character in the Bible, it's Elijah. It's 1 Kings. I think there's a reason why in the New Testament, James says Elijah is a man just like he could have picked anybody.
Yeah.
He says Elijah, and it's like, well, why? Well, Elijah's the guy that can call down fire in one moment and wish it to be over in the next. He's sitting under a tree like, God, I'm done. I'm burnt out. Ministry, kill me now. And right? Like, thank God he don't answer every prayer. Like, some of us have less kids if God answered every prayer.
Right,
We'd have less
right.
friends and relatives if God answered every prayer. But I mean, think about this. Like the grace of God, Elijah takes a nap because that's what he really needed.
Yeah.
And he takes a respite, and then there's warm bread baking over coals and cool water in a desert. God meets his need. And so for me, when I look at a character in the Bible that I feel like I most resemble, Elijah's it, because I feel like I've had mountaintop moments where I felt like I called down fire and shut up the heavens and did some stuff that was real like, oh my God. And then I also have had moments where I was like ready to quit. And God does something in those seasons. And it sounds like you've got these moments that have been high highs.
Yeah.
But I know some of the next part of your story has felt like, man, but I had to go through the valley to get to where I am today. What does that rest of that story look like?
It's just a miracle that I'm at this table.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna use I'm gonna use some black church terminology. My testimony is.
Yeah. Say it.
My testimony.
I mean, if there's a song
Yeah.
that was, he's not done with you yet. I look at you and I'm like, literally, that's the soundtrack. I mean, if I could actually sing, and I can't, I'm not
Right, but
pitch.
you would bust out.
I'm on pitch. I can't clap on beat. I have none of the talents you have. It's just like, I hear it when I see you. I hear it like almost playing in my head. He's not done with you yet. Like when they thought it was over, he's like, no, I got a second chapter for Sam. I got the next chapter, and the best is yet to come, man. I'm seeing it happen, brother.
Jesus. Don't do this to me at this table.
I'm sorry, man. I gotta go there.
In the hall last night. You should have just laid hands on.
I was afraid for your neighbor in the hotel room. I thought she was gonna go down too.
Man, yeah, it's my testimony has been I have been kicking and screaming. The Lord literally has just been I dragging me. You're not gonna give up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please let me give up. Like, I'm done with the ministry thing. I'm done. It's been too much. It's been too hard. It's been, and this is just I really do think it's a great segue, and I'm definitely gonna answer the question.
And here's what's crazy, Sam,
please.
Because you have options. There's the guy in ministry that's like, I'm at the end of my rope. I'm done. But I got to go back next Sunday because I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You're so musically gifted and talented, and your podcast is being spread. I mean, you're in rooms. It's not like you can't go secular tomorrow or get another job.
That was my plan.
Gig, another opportunity. Like you're in it because God has said, you ain't gonna give up I'm gonna keep you in this. It's
Yes.
not like, well, I just don't have another opportunity.
Yes.
So I have to do this.
Well, and that's such a, and I've never said this publicly, but since we're here, it seems like we're outside. We're inside, but we're outside. You know, when you go through, and we're gonna get into the Hillsong season, right? And then, I mean, but if you're a ministry leader and you know anything,
They don't need
kind
a whole
about
lot
the
of
world,
context for it. Right.
you understand the barrage of media scrutiny and documentaries and all the things
Sure.
that we planted our church in and then had
Right.
to navigate through. And again, I'll unpack it in a second, but it's like when you go through stuff like that and then go through a divorce and some other things, which we'll get to, you have people that are just like, just hang it up. Because depending on what theological background you come from and how you view restoration,
Yeah.
it's like,
You're disqualified.
just go sit down for the,
Yeah.
and nobody has a number.
No.
It's like, is 10 years enough?
Yeah.
Is 2 years enough? Is
Yeah.
1 year? Is 6 months? How do we know when somebody's really restored? There's no real number in the New Testament.
Right. It's not like he
And I
gave us
studied it.
a blueprint
Yes.
and was like, hey, you sit him down for 6 months
Yes.
and then we, quietly bring him back. I remember the time Bishop Jake said to me, he said, Christians are the only people who shoot our wounded.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place of restoration, but what does that look like?
Mhm.
Is it 18 months? Is it
Right.
6 years? Is it
Yep.
10 years? Like, or do you just put the
And
guy
how
out
do
there
you know
past?
somebody's changed?
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm. And so for me, it's like when you, now again, and I want to be, honoring, because there were so many voices at that time behind the scenes going, this is not going to be your end.
Mm.
But there were, I probably would say maybe more voices, or it seemed like it was, that are like, just hang it up. Why would you
Right.
want to keep? And so you get to the point, even you hear those voices, you hear these voices. First time in my life ever hearing these types of voices, and then feeling the weight of the moment and the pressure of the moment. You just go, yeah, why do I want to, like,
Right.
and you start saying, and I started calling people and going, yeah, no, I'm trying to get out too. I tried to give our church away 5 times.
Mm.
Truth just refused to take it. 2 or 3
Love you, Manny.
Right. The truth. I mean, I'm begging him, please. He's like, you're not stopping.
Mm.
And I'm like, and so I'm like, guys, it's not that I want to do this.
Right.
My therapist had actually, and I'm skipping around, but my therapist had actually told me when I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Let's pause. So we go through the Hillsong season. We plant our church 6 months after Carl Lentz has his situation in Hillsong, New York. When we get announced as first African-American pastors, right? I was married at the time. We're People Magazine, New York Times, all these things in a week. And I'm like, this is it. This is the best.
Right.
This is like the crown of
Mhm.
everything that this has been leading to.
Mhm.
And then literally 7 days into the media cycle, the situation in New York happens with Pastor Carl Lentz. It usurps. We're out of the media. And it's him, and then it's Hillsong, and then for the next year and a half. And I'm talking about, I know the reporters' names because of how many articles were written.
Sure.
We were having global meetings about reporters. This is the individual. There was one individual who, she just took it upon herself. She was like, look, the Hillsong is my project, and I don't believe she was a believer. I think she's Jewish, actually, in terms of a Christian. And she's like, look, every day I'm going to write an article about Hillsong, and I'm going to find something. I mean, if somebody tripped over a Lunchable in the hall, she wrote about it.
Right.
It's like, they got Lunchables at Hillsong,
Right.
But and I remember at one time, for 3 or 4 months, it was an article from the New York Post and the New York Post is a feeder.
Mm-hmm.
So when they posted, Vanity Fair's picking it up, and then this person
Associated Press picks up on it, which if it's positive, is great.
Yes.
But when you're in the middle of that kind of cycle and that whirlwind, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, and she ends up getting to deal with Discovery Plus.
Sure.
That's what the documentary comes out.
Yep.
We plant the church 6 months into that. In the Bible Belt, where Christian news is news. See, in the South, it's Christianity. Everybody go to church for the most part, or at least you've grown up in a church. In the North, it might be a little different from what I have understood. That's why you have so many mega churches in the South, because everybody just kind of goes to church. So if there's something in the Christian media, I mean, it's kind of being spread, and then it started tapping into, some mainstream media. So when we plan our church, we've got 2,000 people at opening, but most of the people came just to,
Sure.
what's
What's going
happening
on?
here, what's going.
Yeah.
And so we think it, and I'll say this to you, it's like in our minds, it's like, Hillsong's been number one for the last 40 years.
Yeah. Shout to the Lord stuff. Like
like
Darlene Check.
Hosanna.
Yeah,
and
way back
Mighty to Save.
1980 stuff. Yeah. Yes.
In our minds, and I had mentors calling me behind the scenes going, "Are you sure you want to continue with this? Like, are you?" I'm like, "We hadn't even planted the church. We had been announced," but I'm like, they're like, "Now, are you sure?" And I'm like, "It's Nike. You know how many, Nike goes through stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You just don't hear about it."
Yeah.
I'm like, they're not going to go down.
Right.
And again, they're still existing, but in terms of the hit,
Yeah.
and it just didn't stop.
Let's fast forward to your engagement with Christian Cultural Center.
Yeah.
Pastor Bernard, Pastor Jamaal Bernard.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
We go through the Hillsong season. We transition the church over to Story Church. That goes on for about a year and a half. And then I go through a public divorce, which is very hard. The intention at the time was that it would not be public, but it ended up being public. And right when it kind of goes public, and I talked to you about this privately, we're in the middle of a building project. And it was probably a $750,000 building project. We're $400,000 in, and it goes public. Our tithing goes down 80%. And for me, I'm like, man, it's over. We just need, again, it's been this, it's been that. We just need to hang it up. And I have a few friends of mine that, our lender and landlord, these are, friends, and they're like, look, can you just try to do whatever? Can we finish the building? A finished building is better than, an incomplete building. And so, man, we just we called it the Hail Mary. We threw a Hail Mary at Christmas Eve, and, the place was packed for the opening. We finished it. But then we continued to go through just what a church would go through in a divorce kind of span, and our tithing continues. It stabilizes, but it's not enough for us to pay a $30,000 a month mortgage, if you will, or lease. Man, and so at the time, I'm kind of navigating it, and I fly up to New York to do my podcast deal with American Urban Radio Network.
Sure.
And this is kind of the first sign of sun that I've had in like maybe 2 or 3 years. So I'm just like, okay, God is God is still here. And I signed the deal. I'm excited. I go back to the hotel. My staff calls me. They're like, it's an eviction notice on the door. Man. And it was as if the last 3 years hit me all at once.
Right.
I fall on the ground in the hotel. I'm just, call my therapist, and this is the point I was making. And he says to me, you gotta make a choice. I'm like, hey, at this point, it's about my health. I know I'm holding on to ministry, and because I feel like the Lord has told me to do this, but I don't want to die.
Right.
And I was pretty clear that if I continued along this, I was going to end up in the hospital. And he told me the same thing. He was like, no, absolutely. You're like moments away from having to be checked into like a mental institution. And he's like, so the way you get out of this is you got to make a decision. He described it like this. It's as if you're in a dilapidated house and you're trying to refurbish it. And as soon as you fix one wall, you go in the next room and you realize there's mold on that wall as well. And you keep going from wall to wall, inhaling more mold, and you're getting worse over time. And I'm like, well, is it worth saving the building? He's like, only you know that? He said, but you got to figure out what you're going to do now. You can't keep going from room to room and trying to juggle this. So you either going to do ministry, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. And there's no wrong answer. A couple weeks go by, and I tell him, all right, I'm done with ministry. I had just gotten my master's in ministerial leadership, theology and leadership. And my plan was to go work for the UN and to do some other things. And 3 days before I'm getting ready to announce to the church that we're closing, a friend of mine calls me, and he's minor.
Yeah.
He says, do you know Dr. A.R. Bernard? And I'm like, I know of him. I don't know these guys. You know Jamaal. I think he had tried to connect me and Jamaal maybe a year ago over text, but we had really never had a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, would you be interested in doing something with them? They want to, Jamaal wants to meet him. 2 days later, Jamaal's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when Jamaal walks in, we have lunch. It's pretty dark for me at that time because I've released ministry.
Yeah.
Things are heavy for me. I'm like, I'm about to shut this church down. It's going to be another loss.
Right.
And his first words to me are, man, I'm sorry we didn't come sooner.
Mm. That sounds like him. And only because I'm his best friend and have known him for 20 years and that friendship, that sounds like the first words out of his mouth would be like, man, I wish I was here sooner. That dude is a ride or die, jump on top of a grenade for you kind of guy.
He's like, me and my dad, we just been watching you die for 3 years publicly. That's what he said. And
wow.
We meant to come sooner, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm closing the church on Sunday. And he's like, well, how much money do you need to keep it open? I'm like, well, I'm kind of done with ministry.
Right. Right.
And I got this bill. He's like, okay, but like, how much money? And I tell him the amount. And for me, it's a big amount.
Yeah.
Because it's a $30,000. He gets up from the table. He says, give me a second. Goes outside, calls his dad. He comes back. He says, we're going to give you the money. Can you be in Brooklyn on Monday?
The relationship is how many minutes old?
30.
30 minutes old. That generosity. I tell guys all the time, the common denominator for my friends is not ethnicity, culture, geography. I've got friends it's generosity. And that man is one of the most generous people I know. And his dad, who he learned it from, we're going to bail you out, basically.
We're going to bail you out.
Quitting. God's been dragging you along this whole time. You ain't going to give up. You ain't going to throw in the white towel. And we're going to help you right now. We're not going to just pray for you. That's great. Thank you. I'm not going to give you a Bible verse. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write a check, and we're going to figure this out because you can't quit.
And the paradox I'm in, AD, at the time is like, I don't even want to do this.
Right.
But I'm seeing the hand of God.
Right.
And so I can't ignore it.
Right.
And I'm hearing him go, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, God, but I already made the decision. It's like, I got it. But
Right.
And I'm in Brooklyn on Monday. It is like, just don't close the church down Sunday. So I have to walk it back emotionally in my head. I just go through with the motions on Sunday. Monday, I'm in Brooklyn meeting Dr. Bernard and Jamaal. Pastor Truth goes with me. And you know what's, at the time, and you'll appreciate this. At the time, the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm going, okay, at some point they're going to ask me about my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
At some point that's happening because this has been public. And they don't. So we go through the whole meeting. And then Truth is like, I got to go because he has to catch an early flight. He had to go back. And they're getting ready to leave. I say, hey, guys, I think we should probably talk about my marriage. I bring it up. And they're like, oh, we got 5 minutes. What's the deal? And I'm like, at this point, they decided we want to do Christian Cultural Center Atlanta and all these things. And I'm like, well, I feel like you need to know the details. And they're like, we got 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, so and I'm telling them the entire story. I'm like, here's the fucking the Maya. Here's what I did. Here's what she, like, just all the stuff. Like, here's where I'm at. And here's what I'm trying to. And they're like, okay. Is that it? And I'm like, well, this is.
Right. Because you wait for them to be like, all right, man, this is great.
Yes.
We changed our mind.
And AR looks at me. He goes, we already knew all that.
Right.
We wouldn't be sitting here.
Yep.
We just wanted to see if you were going to tell us the truth. You got it out? I'm just like, and we leave. 3 months later, we plant, CCC Atlanta.
And I've been there, and I've gotten to see the campus, and I'm still waiting for my invitation to preach at CCC Atlanta. But whatever, it's okay. You let me know.
I've been waiting on.
But you said to me, like, yo, man, I'm growing this thing. What do we need to do? And I just simply said to you, You just got to be more of who you are in God,
Yes.
because it's so clear that Pastor Bernard's covering is amazing. Pastor Jamaal's encouragement and leadership, amazing. But God's got gifting and anointing so squarely on your life. And all I just keep hearing in the back of my head is, he's not done with you yet. The best is yet to come. And we're not sitting here, bringing up dirt to be salacious. What we're simply saying is to every leader that's watching this right now, your end, if you're breathing today, there's purpose. If you got up this morning in your right mind, I don't care how dark it looks, there's purpose, there's future. Your best days are ahead. The best is yet to come. And you are a living testimony of what that's like, man. And I will tell you, bro, 2:00 in the morning or whatever it is, man, I got your back. And you are so worth every investment and anything that I could do to be a blessing to you, man. I'm down to do it, man, because I've just seen the hand of God so clearly on your life. Can I ask you to do one thing? If there's a leader right now that's so struggling, they are in the valley right now. They don't know the other side.
Yeah.
The valley's between two mountains.
Yeah.
Your next mountaintop is coming, but they're still in the valley. Would you give them a 60-second just word of encouragement to that person that's watching right now?
I don't know how I made it through this interview with you. I think, what I would say is that one of the things that just keeps ringing in my spirit is, Dr. Bernard spoke to me, and I asked the question, why would you want to work with somebody like me that's gone through? And he said, because you're humble, you take accountability. We wanted to see if you would tell us the truth. You did. You're not making excuses. You're willing to grow. You want to grow. And I can work with that. And I think that's just so important for people who have gone through some things, who have made some mistakes, which all of us have.
Yes, we're all flawed.
I think on the other side, this is what I've seen, on the other side of accountability, humility, brotherhood, because our real first conversation was us riding around the city, me going, bro, all right, so here's my story. And you're like, okay, here's where I'll challenge you. And here's where I'll hold you accountable. And here's where I'm going to call you up. And I think that that's just so important, because I think on the other side of that, humility is grace.
Yes.
And God can just, what does he say? He opposes the proud.
Yeah.
And uplifts the humble.
Yes.
And so I just want to encourage somebody to be humble in your valley. John Maxwell said it this way, when you're down, get all the lessons you can when you're down. He said, because when you get up, those lessons are no longer there.
Yeah.
And that's been my prayer in this season. And if you got to go kicking and screaming, go kicking and screaming. But be obedient to the Lord.
Yes.
That's the only reason I'm here.
Yes.
Because the Spirit of the Lord said to me, I don't care how you feel, this is what I've called you to.
Yes.
Are you going to be obedient or not?
Yes.
And it's been individuals like you who have said, we got you. I'm like, okay, 30 for 30.
Yeah, I love you, man.
I love you, man.
I'm going to dap you up again, because I don't think they're allowed to do that
I
on
don't
podcast, but we're going to do it anyway. I'm sitting here with Sam Collier, pastor of CCC, Christian Culture Center, Atlanta, here in Long Beach, Long Island, and New York City. Thank you for watching us on the Faithly Stories podcast. Continue to follow us on social media and all the platforms. Definitely follow this guy. Watch his journey, because the best is yet to come for him. The best is yet to come for you. God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Faithly Stories podcast. We pray this episode gave you the encouragement you needed to continue on your journey. The Faithly Stories podcast is brought to you by Faithly, an online community committed to empowering church leaders, pastors, staff, and volunteers. The Faithly digital platform offers innovative and practical tools and resources to enhance connection, foster collaboration, and promote growth within the church and ministry space. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help reach more listeners like you. Stay tuned for more uplifting tales from the front lines of ministry on the Faithly podcast. Stay bold, stay faithful, and never underestimate the power of your own story.